Today we're going to explore the way that various types of stress and tension can impact your breathing when you sing and what to do about it. I want this discussion to help you breathe more expansively rather than cause you to tighten up. So I'll be reminding you to check in with your breathing throughout this video. So wherever you happen to be while you're watching this, please take a moment to allow your body to settle into a comfortable position and begin to breathe fully, slowly, and mindfully. Notice any sensations related to your breathing as your body expands when you inhale and then settles again when you exhale. Notice if your breathing feels stuck anywhere and see if you can detect any specific movements or sensations related to the stickiness. Try to continue breathing fully, slowly, and mindfully for the duration of this video. Okay, welcome back to today's topic. I'm going to be talking about the movements involved in inhalation and breath release, as well as the movements that are likely to be involved in breath support, which may vary depending on your personal preferences and approach to technique. And then I'm going to talk about the specific ways in which stress, tension, nerves, and so on can affect your physiology and impact all of these movements, and also how to develop the skill to notice them creeping in maybe a little bit earlier than you've been noticing them, and how to dismiss them when they do show up. Are you still breathing fully, slowly, and mindfully? That introduction was a bit wonky. Just notice how listening, paying attention, contemplating all of this stuff impacts your breathing while you're listening. It's very good practice. Let's start with inhalation. The diaphragm is the main muscle of inspiration. It's a large dome-shaped structure that divides our torso into an upper thoracic compartment and then a lower abdominal compartment. When we inhale, the diaphragm contracts, descends, and flattens out, creating a vacuum in the thoracic cavity, pulling air into our lungs and displacing the organs and other structures in our viscera. That's why the stomach expands when we inhale, and my voice teachers are always harping on the importance of taking a low breath. The air is only going into your lungs, it's not going into your belly, but once it goes into your lungs, everything else has to get out of the way to make room for the air coming in. In addition to the activity of the diaphragm, there are lots of other structures that act as synergists to help draw more air into our bodies, including the intercostal muscles, the muscles that lift and separate the ribs when you inhale. Take a moment to experience all of these movements as you continue to breathe fully, slowly, and mindfully. Can you detect the movements of your diaphragm and the other structures that facilitate inhalation? We don't get direct sensory feedback from the diaphragm, but you may still be able to sense its movements fairly well based on the way they impact the surrounding structures. Now, notice what happens when you finish inhaling and you begin to release your breath and exhale. Under most circumstances, this is an essentially passive process. It's actually not necessary to engage your musculature at all to push the air back out. The muscles of inspiration finish contracting, they release, the air flows out, and then the whole cycle begins again. Continue breathing deeply and observing your breathing while I tell you a little bit about the role that fascia, or connective tissue, plays in respiration. We tend to focus on muscular activity when speaking about movement, but we're learning more and more every day about the incredibly significant role that our fascia plays in the human movement system. Your lungs are composed of fascia, and when you inhale, all of that tissue stretches and expands to accommodate the increased volume of air. When you exhale, the release of your breath is accomplished primarily by all of that stretched out fascia trying to return to a neutral state. Here's the cool thing though, it wasn't just the fascia of your lungs that expanded when you inhaled, it was also all of the tissues in your abdomen and elsewhere in your torso that expanded when you inhaled. When you inhale, you invest all of these tissues with energy potential. When you exhale, their return to a neutral state expresses that energy potential and pushes the breath out for you without any need for muscular activity. Exhaling feels passive, and it essentially is because all of the effort was on the inhalation. Then the elastic recoil of your fascia expels the breath from your body without your feeling or doing much of anything. As you continue to breathe fully, slowly, and mindfully, see if you can detect how the elastic recoil of all of that expanded fascia helps to expel the breath from your body. So where does support come in? I define breath support as anything you do to regulate your subglottal breath pressure, in other words, the air pressure inside your lungs. After a full inhalation, the air pressure inside your lungs is actually quite high because you needed to stretch and expand all of that fascia to make room for it. Now that expanded fascia wants to return to a neutral state and expel the air. Trust me when I say that after a well-coordinated inhalation, when you begin to exhale, the elastic recoil of your tissues is more than sufficient to provide your vocal folds with the highest quality of breath pressure they could possibly desire. You don't need to engage any of your musculature to start, boost, or otherwise control your exhalation at the beginning of a sung phrase. What you're actually supporting is the continuation of the optimal breath pressure that you had when you started the phrase. That is when some muscular engagement can become desirable. Exactly what that muscular engagement will be will vary depending on your personal preferences and technique, as I discussed in the video that I made on breath management. But it's likely to include engagement of some of your muscles of expiration. These muscles are the antagonists to your diaphragm and intercostals, including the abdominal complex and potentially also the muscles that can squeeze your rib cage in and pull your sternum and chest down. I would generally recommend that you not squeeze your ribs shut and pull your sternum and chest down, because for most of us that's going to be as uncomfortable as it sounds. But really, the only thing that matters is whatever it is that you do when you engage your muscles of expiration, you do so intentionally and continuously. Now we're finally ready to talk about how stress, tension, and nerves can impact your breathing for singing and what to do about it. I hope that you have been continuing to breathe fully, slowly, and mindfully throughout this video, because now I'm essentially going to ask you to do the antithesis of that and imagine what it feels like to breathe when you are freaking out and feeling stressed. Part of what happens when we get stressed out is that the sympathetic nervous system gets activated, as in the fight or flight response, and it causes our fascia to contract. And not in the same way that muscle fibers contract. It contracts in a way that causes our tissues to stiffen. If we do this repeatedly and for long periods of time, it can cause the stiffness to become permanent by creating adhesions within the fascia and adhesions between the fascia and other structures. This can reduce range of motion for our muscles and joints, and pertinent to today's topic, can also reduce range of motion for all the structures involved in breathing. So while I hope you're not freaking out right now, I do encourage you to notice how the movements and sensations related to breathing are affected when you are feeling stressed. Each of us will respond differently, so I'll share with you what tends to happen to my body when I start to freak out. I experience a pattern of tension that causes my shoulders to elevate, my sternum to depress, and also a lot of tension in my abs, particularly towards the top where my whole abdominal complex intersects with the diaphragm right below the sternum. Thankfully, I don't freak out nearly as often as I used to in the past, but back then, the frequent repetition of this pattern caused significant chronic tightness that made it impossible for me to breathe deeply and very difficult for me to keep my neck free. And forget about breath management, it was all I could do just to phonate. But you don't have to be freaking out all that much for it to impact your singing. The tightening of your tissues will make it take more time and effort to inhale fully, and then contribute extra drive to the exhalation. By the way, this is one of the things that can make it really difficult to take a quick breath in between phrases, because if your abs are tight from pushing the air out, when you inhale, first you have to relax those muscles, right? So it takes time to relax those muscles, and then when you inhale, you have to fight the extra tension to get the breath in. If, like me, you develop some chronic tension in your abs, the limited range of motion and extra tension can make it impossible for you to really take a deep breath. And the overactivity in your abs will incline you to push even when you aren't freaking out. At least that was my experience. Okay, that might sound like some bad news, so check in with your breathing again and notice how it's going. Notice if at some point you stopped breathing fully, slowly, and mindfully. Notice any movements and sensations that replaced your deep breathing. And then go ahead and resume the fuller, deeper breathing, because the good news is that you can do something about all of this, which I can personally attest to, both from my own experience and from what I observe in the studio every day. I'm going to share with you some simple strategies and tools that, when applied consistently and with focused awareness, can help you to retrain and reshape your fascia in ways that will permanently improve and expand your breathing options. I'm talking about myofascial release, a technique that focuses on releasing tightness and tension in muscles and the surrounding fascia. It involves applying targeted pressure and stretches to specific areas of the body in order to reduce pain and improve flexibility. Releasing chronic tightness and adhesions in the fascia promotes relaxation, better movement, and overall improved well-being. And you can effectively apply myofascial release techniques to your own breathing anatomy with just a few simple tools. I've dropped a bunch of links in the video description and the comments so that you can begin to do a deeper dive into these resources. I myself use a collection of massage balls developed by Jill Miller of Tune Up Fitness. Her resources and videos were what got me started down this amazing journey of discovery. The basic premise is that when you slowly, strategically, and repeatedly stretch your fascia, afterwards, it retains some of the expansion that you experienced during the stretch. Unlike most other exercise modalities, it really does not take long for you to start experiencing the results in a very practical way. And the thing is, if you had some tightness in your abs, if you had some tightness in your rib cage, once you experience greater freedom in those areas, you remember it. You'll remember how good it feels. And if it starts to tighten up again, you're going to notice it starting to tighten up. You're going to remember that it doesn't have to be that way, and you'll feel motivated to take steps to relax it again. Myofascial release will not automatically keep you from freaking out or tensing up in auditions and performances, but it can significantly take the edge off. You'll be more likely to notice when stress-related tension patterns start to creep in, and you can allow that observation to remind you to take a deep breath, relax your abs, expand your rib cage, and release the tension. That will help to calm you, and it will take even more of the edge off. The rest of the solution, for me at least, has been to engage in meditative practice to enhance focus and awareness. Improved mindfulness will help you to notice the tension patterns sooner and to dismiss them before they become a problem. You'll find a link below to Yoga Nidra guided meditation that I recorded to help improve awareness of your breathing. Okay, that was a lot. I hope you're still breathing comfortably, and I'm very grateful to you for watching. You can subscribe to my Patreon to support my work, which right now includes a revised edition of my book, Complete Vocal Fitness. Most of the content in this video will appear in the revised chapter on breathing. Do subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already for more resources on singing technique, biomechanics, and mindfulness.